Welcome to Inspiring Insurance. Our goal is to provide value to the insurance industry through real-life experiences from insurance professionals who have walked the walk. You can expect to hear story sharing, top tips, and practical advice to help you grow and succeed in your career. We hope you enjoy this episode's guest. This week's guest is a passionate broker and people manager with 25 years of experience, making waves in the Australian market after a successful career in New Zealand. Joining me from Perth, please welcome Rachel Thomas.
Awesome. Thank you. I can't wait. Let's go. Crack away.
Let's do it. All right. Let's kick things off. So I'd love for you to share a bit of a summary of your career, how you got into the industry, and give us a bit of a rundown on the last 25 years.
Okay. So, as everyone else did, my journey, I suppose, in the insurance industry was not planned. It was more of an unexpected opportunity is what I'd like to say when I look back on that. So at the time I was actually working for Christian Dior. I was in the beauty industry, but I wanted something closer to where I lived because I was traveling about an hour to get there. So I saw an opening at State Insurance. This was in New Zealand. So this is like the equivalent of SGIO in a branch. And so to me, that was a sales job. So I got the GAB. So to me, that was just another sales job. I got the job, as I always do, because I can kind of talk my way into these things. So back then when I did aptitude testing, if you've got a bit of a strange mind, you can actually do quite well at getting into the industry. So that's how I got my break. But I did realise pretty quickly that it was going to be probably a lot more rewarding than I had expected. And I guess I've got the gift of communication or gift of the gab and a bit of a knack for problem solving. So I did find myself thriving. And it was then I actually made the decision that, insurance is going to be my career. Then, as always happens, the small office, got made redundant because all the office is centralised. But I didn't let that hold me back. So I actually ended up moving cities at that time from the small town I was living in to pursue new opportunities in Christchurch in another city, and eventually working in other branches, bigger branches, and then moving to the head office in Wellington. And then I was working in the corporate partnerships area. So that was all great. I was learning lots of different things. I eventually found my way to Perth about a year later, and then I ended up getting a job with SGIO. So again, it was actually like a sister company. So it was the same owner, IAG, who owned State Insurance and SGIO. It wasn't my plan to end up working at SGIO, but it's a bit different when you come to a different country, just trying to find your feet and get a job with a really thick Kiwi accent at the time. So that was fun. But anyway, so I got my job working there. But I guess it was my gateway into insurance in Australia. And from there, after I was sort of in the call centre for a couple of years, victim of my own success. I'm very good at selling things. They'd like to keep you there. And I'm like, no, let me out. I want to do underwriting and I want to do all these different things, So I eventually left and I nabbed myself a job at JLT, an international brokerage. So I was working in new business development. Like, I don't know how I got that job. I literally talked myself into that and dropped in. Had to learn, like, fly or die. I said it's like going from kindergarten to university in one day. But that's where you realise that your skill set does come into play in your ability to learn really quickly and work it out and thrive. So I did pretty well in there. I was there for a few years, but then I did get an opportunity to go into underwriting at QV, which is really what I wanted to do. And from there, I moved on to a BDM job, for Culloden, which, like I was saying to you earlier, it was I really loved being part. I looked after all of WA, so these were my family, and these are the people that I got to spend all my days with, these brokers, and a lot of them are my best friends now as well. So that was really interesting. It's had a few twists and turns. Like I said, I even ended up in banking accidentally in Kalgoorlie and in a few places in between. That was a challenge, but it made me realise how much I missed insurance, to be fair. So when I came back from Kalgoorlie and back to Perth, and I decided to make the decision back into the broking world, which I am very well rooted here now. I'd say this is going to be me till I retire. So I'm a senior account executive now at Elliott Insurance, the green broker. Yeah, I'm quite lucky. I'm managing a team of a commercial team, and we're also quite heavily involved in driving forward some pretty exciting green initiatives that the brokerage is doing as well. So that's kind of where I started and where I've ended up now.
Amazing. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
good. Thanks so much for sharing. Something on, so when you first moved over from New Zealand to Australia, because this is something that I hear a lot with people looking to move over at the moment, is they arrive in Australia, they their previous experience is not recognised here, and the qualifications that they may have had from New Zealand means nothing. Do you have any tips for people looking to make that transition currently, and how they can overcome that?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I didn't really come with a qualification. I come with a lot of experience,
Yeah.
So, and to be fair though, ANZIIF, nowadays, that's goes across Australia and New Zealand. So it's probably a little bit easier. But I did find that you do sometimes have to go back and do things again. Like
Yeah.
when I come to SGIO, that was right back when the financial services reform happened. And so we all had to get the equivalent of our tier two. But SGIO put us through 3 months of training. See, nowadays you can do your tier two in, well, at the time, some people were doing it on the day because all of the industry were no longer qualified to do their jobs. And my assistants are going through their tier twos, and maybe it'll take them a couple of months to do, but it's you just have to sort of suck that up to some degree and
Yeah.
just do it. When I moved to broking, I was going to do a broking bridging role into that before I did my tier one. But back then I did it through NEBA. Actually, NEBA were really good. They actually rang me and said, "Why are you doing this? We've looked over your history. We are going to RPL you, for your previous years of experience. And so skip all that and we're going to drop you straight into your tier one." So it wasn't so bad. Do you know what I mean? Like you just sort of have to do it. And look, work was paying for it, and so that was nice. Although I think I left within 2 years, so I did have to pay that back, to be fair. So that's one thing to look out for. But then when I moved to banking, because we were selling insurance products, I had to go and do my tier two again.
Yeah,
And even
sure.
though I had a diploma, by that stage, I had a diploma of financial services, but too bad, so sad, you need to do it again. So I do it. I've got a certificate. I'm thinking of getting it framed and putting it beside my diploma, from the bank to do that. So I guess you just have to accept that you're just going to have to keep on doing it. And to be honest, it does keep changing over the years. The training that I did is very different than the training people would do now. And you can always relearn new things. So I don't think you should ever be above going over the basics again.
Yeah, sure. It's
Yeah.
part of the role, right? You're
I think it's
always
just part of it. Yeah,
upskilling.
but for me, that wasn't necessarily stopping me getting into the industry. Because like I said, I kind of had to start back I didn't need that in New Zealand, and then here I sort of started it on that bottom rung anyway, and so I just gradually got it as I went through. Yeah,
Yeah, amazing.
wasn't so
Thank
bad. The worst thing
you.
that's holding me back was my accent. Like I said, because I was fresh off the boat, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah, you are the butt of everyone's jokes and everything. Everyone thinks they're funny. That's the hardest part. Just get over there. And God forbid if the rugby was on, it was a bit of a nightmare for me. So yeah.
What's what's been your biggest learning throughout your career? What's something that people can
Yeah,
take? Yeah.
I think it's actually quite a cool one. My biggest lesson when I thought about it is that, and this is um, insurance professionals are heroes. Like I said, I often do presentations in my networking group, and I've got this slide of this insurance hero with a cape. Do you know what I mean? Um, but and I really truly believe this. I learned this back when I first started working at State Insurance in New Zealand, when they taught us about the history of insurance, how it started by, I don't know, don't ask me when, talking dark ages, when pestilence and plague and flood would come through, and then the many would pull for the few when they needed it, which really is the beginning of insurance. And once you sort of realize that that's what it was all about, that's when I thought this is actually really cool, you know. From the outside, you see it as just people taking your money. I never claim and it's not worth it, and blah, blah, blah. But when you look at it from that other perspective and being on the end of needing it, so yeah, I think that's really cool. Obviously, it's very easy to overlook what you do in insurance. It's not as sexy or glamorous as professions. We're not fireys putting out fires or surgeons doing life-saving operations. And even though at barbecues I do sometimes tell people I'm a brain surgeon just for the fun of it. Or if I ever want to get rid of someone, you just say your insurance and they just go, oh, that's nice. And then they just leave. But yeah, but I think what we do is equally powerful, right? So obviously when disaster strikes, we help rebuild businesses, we defend people through lawsuits, we ensure their income's restored after there's been some tragedy or fire. So for anyone who's gone through a loss like this, the support that we have is truly life-saving. I do take immense pride, in the responsibility that we have to make sure that we've set up the client so that happens the way it should do when they need it. I do have what's been called a meticulous attention to detail, aka OCD, to every case, because I really understand when someone's world's fallen apart, that I'll be the one that they turn to for a lifeline. So yeah, I need to make sure that we've done all the right things, and I'm there to save them, to save them at the end. Look, and it can be challenging, to do that. And there are certainly days that I do joke about throwing it all in and mowing lawns. There's something to be said for just mowing a lawn, going home, and the job's done. Because as we in the insurance industry, our job is never done. It's always in our mind. We dream about it often, until things are finalised. But, deep down, I did realise that I guess this is my calling. I'm not just good at it. I was made for it. The aptitude testing I've done, it's always one of the things, either teacher, armed forces, or insurance broker. Yep. So interestingly enough, they're sort of similar. They're on the frontline trenches, I guess. So that's been my biggest learning, is that we're heroes. We're really important. I had a partner once that was a fiery, right? Everyone loved him. Oh, he's such a hero. He put the fire out. I'm like, you may put that fire out, but I rebuild everything and put you back to the way it was. I'm the hero. I'm the true hero. So, and I don't forget that. I tell everyone who comes into the industry, if you remember that, that's why we're here. Yeah.
That's really good. And you can really tell how passionate you are about what you do just from that little description there. I love it. That's so great.
Yeah, I probably do take it a bit too personally. I think that's just my personality. Sometimes I've got to get over things. You lose clients sometimes, and I feel like I've personally lost. It's like a breakup. I get very emotionally involved. I do feel like I'm part of my clients' businesses. I feel like I'm, they have these trusted people to advise them, advisors and accountants and lawyers and things. And I feel like, insurance brokers are one of those other ones as well. So from my perspective I'm in on the ground floor with them, trying to make them succeed and do everything great. But sometimes from the other way back, I don't know, we're just these people that charge them loads of money and can seem a bit of a pain in the bum. So yeah.
No,
I'm glad it does come through. Yeah.
No, it definitely does. What do you see as the biggest challenge for people coming into the industry currently? What do you see as the biggest hurdle that people might be facing in their new roles?
I would say, I think one of the biggest challenges for newbies, new people coming into it, and there's a few people I've tried to get into this industry. Some of them I have been successful with. I think it's getting that first break.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So look, unless you've gone through a graduate program, although I don't know why a graduate would go get a degree and then go to insurance. My mind kind of boggles why they do. This is a job for me. I've done all this university, and you end up in these careers with people who haven't, you just sort of learnt it all the way through. But there are graduate programs. So you can easily get into it that way. But apart from that, I feel like you need experience to get in, but but you need to get in to get the experience. So it's the old catch-22, right? So it can be a little bit frustrating. I think another challenge too is probably, even if you do get in, is the reality check of what it is really all about. So again, I want this to remain inspiring, but it often isn't what people expect it to be. So it's not just about the money, although we can earn good money. We earn that money, by the way. So we're not just lazy about getting good money. And maybe from the outside it looks pretty corporate, and you can go do these fun things, and it's a bit of travel, and there's social, and but it really is all about the hard work and the dedication that you put in. So it is an industry that demands a lot of resilience, I would have said, and grit. It's definitely not for everyone. I've often said that we are a unique breed. I think we're born a particular way, and we have a leaning to be to be good in insurance. Sometimes I think we may even be a little masochistic. We keep doing this to ourselves. We've been through a hard market cycle for a long time, and so it does feel like we go to war some days, and it can be easy to not see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I think if you sort of keep your mind on the end result, and sort of find your purpose, and like I said, people can see why I do it, so that does keep me going. So, and for me, that makes it worth it. So.
Amazing.
Yeah, stickability. Yeah, just be really honest. Look, there's been some few people that I've worked with over the years that have sat beside me, and I look at them and and they're struggling, and I'm like, oh, honey, if you're struggling now, you're not. It's only going to get worse, right? When you're learning. And they left, and they never came back. And I felt kind of bad, but in a way, it's just that reality. You can't half-ass this job. You've either got the tenacity and the ability to do it, and if you don't, it's just not for you, and you're probably best to just go do something easier. Yeah.
Sure.
The harsh reality.
Aside from the advice of saying maybe this isn't for you, what advice would you give to someone who might be feeling a little bit that way, and how could you get them to overcome it, do you think?
I would think is to, like I said before, is embrace that grind, weirdly, and embrace the long hours and all those late nights. The tough conversations, they're really hard that you're going to have with your customers, but is that it's all part of the process. So there's obviously going to be moments, like I said, you question your decision, but you do stick with it, and that you are building something meaningful, and every little bit of work will pay off, because this is a career, right? So I think if you're in this as a job, then that's not going to suit you. But if you see this as a career, then that will certainly help you stick with it. You'll have to learn to be resilient, like I have. Because, like I said, we're the people that pick up the phone, right? When the clients are upset, they lean on us. So if you've got empathy in there, that's certainly going to help. Patience, I've had to learn that. That is not something, one of the things banking helped me with patience, dealing with people. And I guess, and a thick skin. Because we will get abuse from people that, for anything that doesn't go their way, you're certainly going to make mistakes, but, that's how we all learn. So I would say that just to get as much experience as you can, and maybe even in different areas of the industry, whether it's underwriting, broking, you could do business development as well. There's a lot of facets in the industry that you can get into, and each will sort of bring a different skill set, make you more well-rounded professional. I have taught new brokers into the industry, assistants, and one thing I have noticed, especially for the young ones, and I don't want to bag on the young ones, I love them, but how much the industry has having to evolve to kind of suit the younger generation, I suppose. I have seen them expect quite rapid career development.
Yes.
You might get in a cadetship or thing, and they think in 12 months I'm going to be knocking down doors and, writing insurance programs for mining companies and stuff like that, and do all the glam stuff. Yeah. Whereas it's not glamorous. You're doing a lot of processing, you're being assistant, you're learning the ways. And so my advice would be, because of my generation, we had to earn our stripes like over years. I'm a Gen Xer. Like I said, I was dumped in the deep end and had to fly or die. I remember Googling, what does indemnity mean? Things like weird stuff, crying in the toilet saying, what have I done? But I got there and I did really well in my role, right? So I think the years of experience, if you're prepared to put in the years of experience, that's what is going to make you especially a better broker. Because I've always said being a broker isn't about knowing about insurance per se. It's learning about every other industry there is on the planet. Sure. Really, because we can do everything. We can insure everything from your garden hose to your jet plane, right? Really. So learning the intricacies, and like I had quite a career in all different things. I could turn my hand to everything. I've been a florist, and I've worked in beauty, and I've been in sales, and you name it, I've done it. Worked in a plumbing company. I've been a horse trainer. So that means that I have got this breadth of experience that I can use when I pick up the phone to the next horse trainer or the next plumber. I can talk about the intricacies of the business, and I've been a hairdresser, so I can talk about I know how expensive their scissors are when they drop them if they break. So that really gives our clients confidence and makes us a better hire as well, makes us more well-rounded. So you cannot get that as a 21-year-old. As much as you want to try and do that, you will never be able to get to that point. You have to literally just embrace the grind, embrace the years, embrace the learning, picking up all that stuff, and certainly learning from those who come before you and respecting the ones that come before you. Sometimes you'll get the okay boomer and things like that from some of the young ones, which, you know, you don't do in this industry, because that's enough to kill somebody, because we're often quite stressed out with our job. But yeah, we've been in the trenches, so learn from our experiences, remaining humble, and to remember that the best brokers aren't necessarily the ones who get ahead the fastest. I think they're the ones who just keep learning and keep evolving. You've got to remember that you're going to be learning every single day until the day you leave the industry. So that, if you keep that mindset, that will certainly help. Yeah, that will certainly help you become a better broker. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. And so what would be your biggest piece of advice for anyone who's quite motivated by your career and might want to one day step up into that people management or lead a team? What would you give, what would you tell someone in that sort of space?
I would tell them to remain true to who they are, because I think what I was thinking about, what I was going to say today, I was writing some things down. You really need to find your fit and know your skill set, know where you are, where you wanted to go. So, you know, I've been pretty set about what I want to do in my career, but then sometimes I get told, oh no, we think you can do this, or we think you can do that, and then they flip back and go, oh no, we actually think you can do the other thing now. You know, a lot of people are in charge of your career, but I think if you stay really true to who you are and really know what you're doing and keep going, and just find your people, find your tribe, and then that's going to make it a lot easier for you. I think if I'm putting it back to my own perspective, where I've ended up now at Elliott's, I really feel like I have found my tribe.
Yes.
And I have been able to be who I am and be embraced for who I am. And sorry, I froze there. That's given me the opportunity to thrive and be a leader, if that makes sense. So don't try to make yourself fit into a mold. It's very easy. Some of them say, oh, look, I want to work in corporate, you know, and I want to go work at this big firm and I want to get big money and rub shoulders. But for me, my reality is that I could do that. I reckon I could do that really well, actually. But we want to enjoy ourselves in these jobs. So it's not all about necessarily getting what you think you might want. Is to really understanding who you are, where your skill set is, and where you're going, and seek out your tribe, seek out the place of business that's going to be able to get you there. You might need to take a few steps. You might need to take a step back, you know, and then, like I said, I'm in my role, I'm doing some jobs that are what I wouldn't have done, you know, like People's Home and Motor. I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm used to doing business insurance, but I'm not above doing what the company needs me to do for the good of the company is good for me. So I think there's a lesson in there somewhere, if that makes sense. It's just, pick your trajectory and understand who you are and stick with who you are. You can't mold yourself into something that you're not. And I think you're just going to end up disappointed, or, you know, others will see that, and then you're probably just wasting your time. So work out who you are, find your people, and I think it will just come.
Yeah, sure. I completely agree with you. I think it's so important to just be yourself, be authentic, and people will, you know, resonate with that.
Because I'm weird. I mean, people are going to watch this and they know exactly who I am, and I've got a habit of my mouth opening up sometimes when it shouldn't. But then again, that's also what I love about Elliott's and John Elliott here, is that that's my biggest asset, you know. Yeah. So you could push down my biggest asset. If I was at a corporate company, like, you can't do this and you can't do that, you can't do that. But I'm also very good at what I do. I'm very sure I'm outspoken. I will stand up for myself, but I will stand up for my clients as well. I'm really good at arguing the fact, you know. Right. And I said, no one, I don't think, has got more passion than I do about the industry. So, you know, sometimes there's both sides to those coin. Often we can be a little bit impulsive and things, but, you know, when you find your people and they embrace that, it's going to make your life a whole lot better. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself feeling like you're failing or disappointing or never happy or not fitting in. So yeah, I'm very lucky. I've got a boss that likes my weird. He's equally as weird, so as well. So yeah, that's good. There is somewhere for everyone at the end of the day.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience with me and sharing your experience with everyone else who will get to view this. I think there's definitely a lot of value that's been created from your story, and thank you so much for sharing, and looking forward to seeing big things from you and your team in 2025.
Yes. I know. I think we've just been nominated for like Employee of the Year or Employer of the Year or something like that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I bet you are. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Rachel.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks.
Thanks, mate.